Good evening. What's going on? Monero Matteo. Welcome back for another edition of the show, which I didn't think would ever happen again. You probably didn't either. Well, actually, some of you saw it coming. I've stopped making videos like 5 times already. Somehow, it just brings me back in. And I think Luke Smith actually predicted this. We had a great telemission event, by the way, which is kind of old news now, but Luke came on down, and we had an opportunity to meet. And I told him that I'd stop the channel. He's like, "You'll be back." And so, nevertheless, here I am. And, you know, part of it was some of you guys just reaching out in the comments of Twitter saying, "Hey, dude, we need some fresh content. We need some fresh takes. When are you going to get back on YouTube? Blah, blah, blah." And, you know, I kind of hand-waved it away, but I just got more and more messages. And I don't know if that was because I was making more posts on Twitter than I had been recently. I kind of took a break from social media, which was quite nice because I just had some other things to attend to, and so I did. And now we're at a pretty good, stable spot. Things are going very well, and I hope things are going very well with you guys as well because it's getting a little bit testy out there. It's getting a little bit crazy, but a lot of you guys have strong faith. A lot of you guys have strong spirits. I've corresponded with a lot of you guys. You guys are the cream of the crop, and so I suspect that you guys are doing okay. But if not, then I will keep you in my prayers. Hope you keep me in yours, and we'll get through this. But, yeah, things are great. Things are great. I've got a super long video for you guys tonight about all the updates going on, and, yeah, we'll just chat. So I've got this new laptop, by the way. Glory to God. I needed it because I tried to make a video 3 days ago, and, you know, push the on button, wouldn't even turn on. And that was one of the problems I was contending with when I quit making videos was my computer would crash in the middle of them. So it kind of logistically made it difficult, but here we are. We've got new technology. We've got new capacities. And by the way, I don't want to see any of you guys comment and badger me about Windows being on here. Okay, I'm getting Linux. I promise it's coming. Okay, I just got this. This is the first thing I'm doing with this laptop, effectively. In fact, I had to, you know, get off this S option thing that Windows makes you now sign up for. It seems like a cartel type deal where it's like you have to use their particular programs and their particular softwares if you want to have like antivirus, if you want to have the protections and benefits that you're otherwise afforded by being with Windows. And if you say you don't want to be part of this S program, which precludes you from getting OBS, which is what I'm using. I hear it's noob software. I don't care. It works. But then you won't be able to do it. Whatever. So I got rid of that. We now have OBS. But I will get Linux. I will get on that. I said that a long time ago. The crap top just couldn't handle it. But we are going to get that fixed up. So things are great. Things are great. Let's just get into the content. Frankly, y'all don't need to hear more updates from me. You guys are here for the fresh takes and to get the super hyper mega bullish case update. So let's see what's going on. Give me a second here. All right, so the big news today, crypto mixing service Tornado Cash blacklisted by Treasury Department for alleged use in laundering. Now notice this word here, alleged. They haven't even been confirmed to have been laundering money. It's just alleged. We think that they're laundering money. Okay, so the precedent is set that the Treasury Department, the government, can pretty much do away with, to the best of their capacities, this crypto mixing service and other crypto mixing services, okay? Even if they're not proven to be laundering money. It's just alleged, right here, alleged. Okay, so we hear a lot of people, they're saying, this is a violation of the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. That's not the world you're living in anymore. The world you're living in is power rules. Might is right, okay? So if the money launderers at the Treasury Department, who comprise of some of the biggest banks in the world, right, the officials who work at the Treasury Department who come from like HSBC and Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan and BlackRock, these criminal cartels, as far as anyone's concerned, who pay, you know, costs of doing business every year for money laundering, literally, they're going to go after their competitors. Tornado Cash, one such example. Okay, so they're going to go after other crypto mixing services. The precedent has been set. Get ready for it. And they're going to be able to do it rather effectively because the groundwork has already been laid to being able to identify who is using a mixing service. And they've been actually working with exchanges in order to let them know who is considered high risk and who is considered somebody who cannot deal with the exchange, because they are getting involved with stuff like this, crypto mixing services. Now, we've heard stories of people who have received Bitcoin from Misc, for example, which is a decentralized peer-to-peer exchange, and they then deposit that onto an exchange, and they get that crypto conscripted, and they get their account shut down. Okay? Like literally stolen by the government. And this has happened, I think, in the Netherlands, where somebody's Bitcoin is just seized by the exchange, by the governments. And then there are other such examples where people put up Bitcoins which have been involved with mixing. They didn't even do the mixing. They just got it from somebody who did the mixing themselves. They get that into a situation where they're trying to get a loan. They put it up as collateral for a loan, and then they get the loan called back because it's tainted Bitcoin, essentially. So they can see who's using a mixer. And so if they're making it now illegal for you to use the mixer, the stakes are getting higher to do this kind of activity. It's getting more risky. And what we've been saying for a long time is once the stakes get high enough, people are going to question whether or not the Bitcoin privacy guide is worth reading and following. Because if there are holes in the theory, and we've seen a lot of examples where there are, and people try to rather extraneous extents to do the Bitcoin transacting privately, and they've done criminal activity, they've done hacks of exchanges, as per the case with the Bitfinex bros, and then some other examples. Like they go through a lot of lengths to do this stuff privately, and they still get caught. Okay, so if the stakes are getting higher, then are you going to continue to use these layer 2 solutions, or are you just going to use Monero, or are you just going to go to gold silver, do something else, just get out of the game completely? Or you're just going to consent to KYC and just go along with the program. And I assume that it's going to be probably one of the two. People are going to use Monero more, or people are just going to consent to the KYC regime. And I think that's going to happen more so. I made a tweet earlier today talking about how the KYC regime is going to take over more so because of this development. Because if you're worried that somebody that you're sending crypto to or getting crypto from is involved in this kind of activity, illegal crypto mixing activity, maybe they're doing business on dark web marketplaces, maybe they're doing other nefarious things, and the number of nefarious quote-unquote illegal things is growing, the consequences are growing, you're going to want to make sure that it's properly identified what crypto belongs to you and what activity you are associated with. Now, what does that mean? It means you're probably going to be incentivized to self-report. They won't even have to make regulations in order to do this. You're just going to be like, oh, I've got a landscaper coming over. This guy looks like he's sketchy. I need the service to be done. I'd like to pay him in crypto. What I'm going to do then is, even if there is an arbitrary amount that I could spend and not have to report it, which is the future, by the way, you're going to have to report certain transactions which are over an X amount from your self-hosted wallet. I suspect that strongly being the case. Well, you're going to report it anyway because you're worried that this guy could go off the dark webs and buy something, or this guy could do something stupid, which then implicates you. Because if your ID is attached to that crypto that you got off the exchanges, a KYC exchange, mind you, then your ID is still attached to that, and you're at the mercy of Jim Bob Landscaper Bro to use this stuff properly. So people are going to self-report. People are going to be more fastidious about their crypto activity, and more data is going to be compiled by the authorities, who are then going to be able to use that data and leverage it in order to figure out things which are going on with the people who would like to be more so private. Okay, so everyone is affected by this. There is a game theory that's going to kick in that's going to encourage people to be more clear about what it is they're doing with their crypto in order to stay out of trouble. That's going to make it more difficult to be private. Okay, so at that point, people are going to be like, let's just use Monero. Let's go with layer 1 solutions, because layer 2 ones are, aside from being more complicated, more prone to regulatory attacks. And so that's what's going to lead to a big growth in Monero, I think, but we'll see. We'll see. And there's some speculation that they're going to go after Monero. We'll get to that here. We'll talk a little bit about the legality of that. It still seems that they're looking at Monero as being an asset, a virtual asset, not a tool, because it's not a layer 2 thing that people are using in order to accomplish a certain function. It can be more readily deemed to be an asset because everybody is just using the crypto on the base layer the same way everybody else is, right? So you can't really say it's a tool, even though it technically is, because all currencies are tools in that sense. But the meaning of tool in this context, right? It has a better chance of surviving that regulatory attack, being a layer 1 privacy coin. Okay, so those are just some things to consider. We have a lot to consider with this, but let's just read this first. The Treasury Department has sanctioned the popular cryptocurrency mixing service Tornado Cash for allegedly helping launder $7 billion in virtual currency. Americans are banned from using the service, and this sets the precedent for FATF to also probably do something similar. The EU is probably going to do something similar. Similar sanctions were imposed in May 2022 on another popular service, Blender.io. So we're seeing an increase in this activity of banning Bitcoin mixing services. Get ready for it. It's coming. The U.S. Department of Treasury sanctioned Tornado Cash, blah, 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 cyber crimes, yada, yada, right? And I think the estimate was like maybe 7% of the money going through that system, was involved in such criminal activity. But that's going to be the standard, right? The standard's going to be high for crypto, non-CBDC crypto, that they want to find an excuse to ban because they want more people to be part of the KYC system. They want more people to be part of the tax and sanction compliance system. And they just want more surveillance. They want more data because data is valuable, right? They're going to look for any capacity they can in order to limit privacy, allowing and facilitating technologies, okay? Just understand that that's the base case that you have to go off. Crypto asset mixers are designed to obscure trails of funds. Yeah, you guys know what crypto asset mixers are. They go beyond traditional crypto platforms and further concealing the identity of people involved in transactions. Right? The North Koreans, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you guys see where this is going, right? So let's check out a couple of interesting examples. Tornado was used in some high-profile crypto heists this year, including the $600 million theft of tokens from Ronin, a network supporting the non-fungible token game Axie Infinity, and a $100 million attack on U.S. startup Harmony. Now, this is just interesting as an aside because I haven't had the opportunity to comment on all the scams which have happened in crypto that people have lost billions of dollars on. See, I've been trying to tell you guys forever, and I think the Monero community has the same take, where it's like, just keep it simple. Just go with cryptos which work. Go with cryptos which accomplish the fundamental function and use case that it was meant to accomplish, which was private, decentralized, fungible, peer-to-peer cash. Okay? Monero has done it, and they're getting better at it. Okay? So why are you getting involved in, doing usury with DeFi? Why are you getting involved with all this other stuff, which is evidently highly risky when you can just buy Monero and use it as it's supposed to be used? Now, everybody wants gains. Everybody wants attendees. Everyone wants to trade. I get it. But look, just keep it simple. If you just kind of follow the Monero bros, I think you're going to do fine. We have the super hyper mega bullish case. Everything's coming along, and I think you're going to be okay. But yeah, it's sad that a lot of people have been scammed. It's sad that a lot of people have been taken advantage of. We're going to talk a little bit about our lovely Sailor the Savior ASAP Spurg, Michael Saylor, here later in the video, because I think that we've been vindicated. But we'll get to that. But yeah, a lot of people have been misled. A lot of people have lost a lot of money, and didn't have to happen. Really didn't have to happen. All this stuff is superfluous, in my opinion. Blockchain analytics from Elliptic found at least $1.5 billion in proceeds from crimes such as ransomware, hacks, and fraud that have been laundered through Tornado Cash. Just to comment, Monero is being exclusively, or more so asked in ransomware and attacks and things like that, which isn't great, I know, but that is a testament to its privacy and how well it works. So that's something to note. Also increases the liquidity. Again, not saying it's good, but just proving the use case, right? U.S. Treasury quoted a much higher figure for Tornado Cash. It's been used to launder $7 billion, blah, blah, blah. some blockchain analytics tools have managed to demix crypto sent through Tornado. So it wasn't even that good to begin with to identify the source of the funds. But then again, that could be FUD. We've heard a lot of FUD about, CipherTrace being able to crack Monero. We'll get to the CipherTrace Bro CEO because he's got a take on Monero and its relation to this news, which is hilarious. Let's just say they're not sending their best, okay? But I believe it. Tornado is probably to some degree a compromise because, as Seth for Privacy points out, Tornado Cash used chain analysis to censor incoming transactions to try to prevent what has just happened to them. They tried to be compliant. They tried to compromise on their privacy so that they could be in the better graces of the regulators. And this is just a lesson which has to be learned again and again and again in this modern time for some reason, which is you don't give an inch to the people who want to have power and domination over you because they're going to take it and run with it. They're going to take an inch and go a mile. They're going to go to the moon, right? So, don't bend the knee. That's not how this works. They'll just conquer you, right? I mean, weakness in this world is we don't live in a Christian society anymore. Weakness in this world will be taken advantage of, and you will be subordinated, and you will be dominated if you show weakness. That's just how this world works nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. So they showed weakness, and they got taken out. That's how it works. It's that simple. Anthony Blinkton. Did I read everything I wanted to? I think so. So moving on. Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State for the United States, he says, we'll continue to aggressively pursue actions against cryptocurrency mixers, laundering virtual currency for criminals. Okay, he says it right there. It's as plain as day. They're going after Samurai. They're going after CoinJoins. They're going after the Bitcoin Cash mixing thing. They're going after them, okay? So the Layer 2s, they're totally compromised, and they're going to get them, and they're going to scare people away from using them. Your anonymity set's going to go down. More people are going to want to use Monero. It's that simple. And it's questionable whether or not these things were even competitive to Monero in regards to privacy, okay? Because people use these services. They still, as we talked about before, got flagged, and they had their exchange accounts shut down and everything like that. So, maybe this is a good thing in the end. Maybe it's going to deter people from using inferior privacy tools to then use things which are better, things which are more suited to handle this kind of pressure. So today, U.S. and by the way, I'm not advising people to do money laundering or, evade sanctions or anything like that. I'm not advising people to do anything illegal, but I'm saying that Monero can take the pressure. It's the best cryptocurrency out there for privacy, and if you really want to remain private, that's your go-to. Anyways, today, U.S. Treasury sanctioned virtual currency mixer Tornado Cash, blah, 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 blah. It's been used by North Koreans, yada, yada. Okay. So just know this, by the way. This is something that we talked about here maybe 7 months ago, when the news came out that Russia is going to start mining Bitcoin and maybe even taking Bitcoin for oil payments to bypass the U.S. dollar. They could use that as a pretext because it's an enemy state under U.S. sanctions to introduce OFAC compliant mining pools, which Marathon Mining had set the precedent for. Now they went back on that, but I think U.S. OFAC mining compliant pools are coming. I think they're going to become more regular, especially with activity that we're seeing like this. And you should expect it, which means the capacity for censorship on Bitcoin goes up quite a lot. And that's a proof of work crypto. They're trying to attack proof of work crypto as a whole right now in favor of proof of stake, which is, from what I've read, much more censorship, which is much less censorship resistant. You have a higher capacity for censorship on proof of stake crypto, especially because, the big wigs that have close connections with the Fed and can get money for cheap can essentially just buy out the system and buy control by just buying the biggest stake, right? And then controlling the governance structure and everything like that. But that's a totally different conversation. We talked about that. But they're going to use enemy states in order to push their agenda. It's the whole problem, reaction, solution thing, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? So we're going to see more of that. we need less of this. This is pretty pathetic. I don't know if this guy was trolling, but he says, okay, U.S. government, what crypto privacy tool can we use? Because I'm beginning to think you don't want us to have any digital privacy at all. Well, what did you think? Well, he's beginning to think. Okay, he's getting there, guys. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. Maybe he still thinks Epstein killed himself. But, we got to be patient. We got to be compassionate to those who are just waking up to the fact that the government really isn't on their side. But thankfully, we have some Monero bros like Han Shan, who has some good tags. Go follow him. He says, if you need permission, you're doing it wrong. Monero, right. I think the perspective in the Monero sphere has always been from the beginning, yeah, the government's going to come after this stuff because the government asserts its control not only over Americans, but over the entire world with the U.S.-based empire through financial means. Okay, that's how they do it. They do it through the dollar. And so if you threaten the dollar with different alternative currencies, then you are becoming like the biggest target for them. Just look at Saddam Hussein. He tried to get onto the euro. Look at Gaddafi. He tried to create another currency with the Pan-African Union, and they got taken out, right? So it's a financial-based empire, and if you're talking about introducing new currencies that people can use to operate outside of their system, then you are presenting a significant threat. And, yeah, privacy, especially in the realm of alternative currencies, is a huge threat to them. So you beginning to think that they don't want you to have digital privacy, I'll just say this, Ryan, you're onto something, okay? But, again, more people are going to wake up to this stuff, which is great. With every bad piece of news, there's a white pill at the bottom. So Jim here points out something which I think is hilarious. He says, max chaos. Someone is sending tornado cashed ETH to big doxed wallets like Shaq, Beeple, Randy Zuckerberg, Ben Horowitz, and Brian Armstrong, etc. I think Jimmy Fallon was also there, which is hilarious. Again, just as a general concept, I don't know why you would want your identity linked to your financial accounts for everybody to see. Just as a general note, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, but stuff like this happens, right? If you are using transparent blockchains, somebody could just send you tainted crap, and then you get on the grid. You get flagged. It has nothing to do with what you even did. It's just if somebody knows your address, like somebody could literally just take Bitcoin off TradeOgre, send it to your exchange address, your exchange address could shut down. Like that happens, right? So it's just another drawback of using non-fungible public cryptocurrency. So that's what's going on. We'll see what happens with that. I'm curious what the regulators will do. But even if the regulators go to these guys and they have a 5-minute conversation, that's 5 minutes which was lost because you were using a public blockchain system, okay? That's inherent inefficiency. Like, even if you have to deal with a regulator who says, hey, you probably didn't have any dealings with this, Russian human trafficker or something like that, but, we just want to ask a few questions. Like, that's more time out of my day that I like. And I certainly don't want to have my heart rate increased and extra calories burned because I'm talking to somebody who may take me to jail for the rest of my life, right? So I'd rather just use fungible digital cash, Monero, XMR. Let's go. We'll see what happens to that. I'm kind of curious. But Trace Evader, go follow him. He's got some great takes. He says, let me just make sure I'm recording. Yeah, we're recording. Okay, cool. He says, Tornado Cash demonstrates the problem with transparent mixers. They aren't actually providing privacy. They only provide guaranteed taint. Right. I mean, because they know when somebody's using a mixer. And so if they're considering all activity associated with a mixer as high-risk activity, okay, then that means that everything that you pull out of the mixer is tainted. Everything you pull out is high risk, right? It's really that simple. And then he says, if you receive any Bitcoin or Ethereum that comes from a mixer, you may end up having your entire balance blacklisted as a result. So you can get more taint out of the mixer than you had before. It's not worth it. And plus, with Ethereum, if you're using a mixer, oh my gosh, like the transaction costs and the just aggregate costs of doing the mixing is obscene. I mean, relative to just using Monero, which has a transaction cost average of like a penny, right? Same with Bitcoin. I mean, those are extra costs you don't want to deal with. And by the way, the Lightning Network isn't totally free either. because you got to onboard yourself to Lightning Network. People say it's private. It's not as private as Monero. We could go into all that. Probably not this video, but the received privacy is not that great. And, you got to open channels, which means you got to make an on-chain Bitcoin transaction. And those aren't necessarily relatively cheap. So, yeah, it's just Monero's awesome. Cool. Now we're on to a good analysis by Body Anarchist. Go follow him on Reddit, or just, can you follow people on Reddit? I'm not a Reddit bro. But he has a great analysis here of sort of the legality surrounding a lot of this. And so I want to read this to you guys because I think this is important to kind of get out there as a perspective. He says, the criminalization of Tornado Cash by the U.S. OFAC today, and OFAC means Office of Foreign Asset Control. It's basically the part of the Treasury which is responsible for initiating sanctions and enforcing them. He says, this was quite the Orwellian move. Unfortunately, this shouldn't be entirely unexpected. And guys, if you've been following this channel, this is not unexpected. This was totally expected. And it's going to get worse. Over many years, we have increasingly seen the weakness of coin mixing, particularly optional coin mixing, come to bear against the crypto market. One of the more disconcerting aspects is the requirement for users to actively participate with other entities in commingling their coins to a common pool. Often these entities are either nefarious or personas non grata. Yeah, like some mixers, like you've got to trust that the person who's doing the mixing, and these are like centralized mixers that you find on the dark web, from what I've read, they take your coins and they have custody of it for a little bit. Now, they have reputation structures and, they likely will give it back, but maybe they don't at one particular point. Maybe like Bitcoin Fog, they just get upped by the authorities and they have a log there, a log of all of the transactions that they've done and the addresses and the UTXOs and everything that could be linked back to you, right? Like some of these coin mixers, they keep logs. So that's something worth noting. By contrast, ring signatures in Monero require neither the commingling of funds nor the active participation of other users in order to achieve transaction graph obfuscation. There has been debate on whether or not this distinction has practical legal implications, and today the case for this distinction becomes much stronger. Consider that we have Monero since 2014, popular for years in darknet markets, larger and more prevalent than Tornado Cash, and offering stronger default privacy. Yet, despite the outright criminalization of Tornado Cash today, Monero remains fully legal for individual use. And I forgot to bring up the Perkins Coie paper. Perkins Coie is an international law firm which created an opinion on Monero and privacy coins. And they said, yeah, somebody could offer services in Monero exchanges as well and be perfectly compliant because of, well, I don't know if I read this in there, but because of use of view keys and spend keys, right? And yeah, hold on, I got a text. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because of view keys and spend keys, which allow people to see into your wallet and see what's going on if you opt into that, which is good for charities. If you want a charity to be transparent about how much money they're raising, or if you want to donate to somebody and they're doing like a fundraising type thing, then they can put a view key out there, which apparently is going to be made even easier with Seraphis, the new upgrade, which is coming. I think is coming. I haven't actually read an update on that. That allows for charities to use Monero and not have everything be totally shadowy. But yeah, Monero, you can opt into regulation, which is cool if you so choose, and that's one of the reasons why it has some legal structure to it, or justification. Furthermore, XMR is available on exchanges in the majority of nations. We'll see how far that goes. We made a video on Kraken in the UK being shut down, and I actually spoke with a gentleman at Montanica who I think worked for Kraken, and he was like an executive, and he kind of gave me some insight about it. I think your name was Peter, if I remember. What's up, Peter, if you're watching this? Yeah, go check out that video. One of the reasons why you're going to see more delisting of Monero is because they can't trace it. The data analytical firms and the forensics firms, they can't trace it. And so they want to not be seen to be ineffective at doing what it is they are getting paid to do by the exchanges. And so they're just going to try to lobby to the exchanges to just delist it so that they don't look too incompetent at what it is they're doing, right? So there's that. Creates less work for them, basically, is what I'm saying. But I anticipate there's going to be more delisting of exchanges, or at least by exchanges. And I think that you've got to look to decentralized exchanges if you want to have reliable access in the future to Monero. I'm looking at Thorchain. I'm looking at Haveno, which has been put on hold, I guess, because of the dip in the price. They had a Monero fundraiser, and they raised the funds in order to do the project, but because the value of the funds in US dollars went down so much, I guess they said that they can't afford to continue the project for now. I don't like the sound of that, but I hope that they get back on it for the sake of the higher goal. But I understand, things happen. And other things like that are coming along as well to give us more options to get Monero. Local Monero is great. Cake Wallet is great. Of course, I got to talk about Cake Wallet. We're going to talk about Cake Wallet a little bit here because they had the biggest, most revolutionary update that has happened in a long time in crypto, in my opinion. And we're going to get to that. Super key. It's super important. It's opened up adoption hugely, at least here in the U.S., and it's a big deal. And I'm not saying that because they're my sponsor. I'm saying that because it really is a big deal. So we'll talk about that. And then there was another decentralized exchange which was made recently. I think it's called like Sarai Exchange. So they're coming out everywhere. Monero is becoming more robust, and the capacity to get this stuff without having to go on centralized exchanges is increasing, which is great. Back to the article, it says the strong case to be made is that Monero, as compared against coin mixing, offers better censorship resistance at the legal level. In fact, it's possible, even likely, that Monero's default privacy, enforced at the network level, continues or contributes to its legal resiliency. In other words, selectively and actively watching your coins in a pool commonly used by nefarious entities, even if executed by a decentralized contract, has substantial legal differences from an encrypted monetary network that always segregates users' funds. Right. Because that doesn't make it seem like the primary function of Monero is money laundering or anything nefarious. It's just intrinsic in the network. So you can't really tell if that's the highest goal, especially because of the fungibility element that is important in monetary philosophy. So there's that. The address and contracts in Tornado are clearly visible and attackable in both a legal and practical sense. The outputs addresses on Monero are essentially indistinguishable from one another. Outputs are never reused, and encryption protects those outputs from being associated with their public address, which can be safely shared with the world. Default application of these and other obfuscation techniques on all transactions present large practical barriers to these kinds of selective prohibitions against Monero users. Monero has shown great resiliency at the network and protocol level, and now with a few more years behind us, is showing surprising legal resiliency as well. Now, go check out our interview that we did with Arctic Mine, our first one. I got to have him back on the show, man. I love Arctic Mine. He's awesome. But he said that Monero is one of the most legally compliant coins out there because it was fairly mined from the Genesis block. There was no development tax. There was no pre-mine. And it has view and spend keys. And he offered some other arguments as well. I mean, it really is legally resistant. But again, we don't want to rely on politics, and we don't want to rely on the good graces of the quote-unquote law in order to foresee the success of this crypto or any crypto, because politics is becoming ever more capricious. And what rules is power. It's not law. And so law can be overridden by those in power if they deem it to be a threat to their power. So there's that. It's far and away the best option for protecting your crypto and asset financial data while remaining well in the bounds of the law for now. Excuse me. So I think that's a great take. Thank you, Body Anarchist. Wonderful take. And just to note, this is from Zenu. Thank you, Zenu. Have I been sourcing everybody? Yeah, I think I have. Thank you, Zenu. He says, in the Treasury report that talked about Tornado Cash, Monero is mentioned, and it is specified that it is a virtual asset and not a service, such as a mixer or tumbler, which is an important distinction. So it is deemed to be an asset in and of itself rather than something which facilitates a function for an asset. So there is a distinction there, and that to some degree is what Bode was talking about here. So that's important to note. To expand on this, this is South for Privacy. He says they cannot enforce sanctions using addresses, again, because of what we talked about earlier. They could take down GitHub. And I don't want to get into the GitHub thing because I've never been on GitHub. I'm not a GitHub bro. But from what I understand, they attacked the very place which people go to, in order to work on the code for the open source software, which is Tornado Cash. There are other backups and mirrors apparently for Monero and other places other than GitHub, which I guess is rather centralized. So they're protected on that front. They've seen it coming. They could sanction exchanges to prevent easy on and off ramps, which we just talked about. They cannot censor individual transactions, but could force pools to mine empty blocks, and that's a whole other thing that I'm not sure if I totally understand. So, but Claw says number 4 is the lowest threat in my opinion, so we don't have to worry too much about it because, according to these other things we talked about, it's not really too much of a threat. He says pools just move to a jurisdiction that doesn't sanction. So that seems pretty straightforward. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that later here. Seth says one of the reasons why commodity hardware mining, thanks to RandomX, which essentially allows you to mine Monero with your laptop, and decentralized pool, thanks to P2P pool, are extremely underrated and make Monero more resilient than ever, or than even Bitcoin to legal attacks. As we enter this adversarial environment, people will learn quickly. Yeah, I think they will. And the largest Monero pool, I think, is shutting down next month. And so a lot of that hash rate is going to go to other pools. And the people who ran that pool, MineXMR, they had said that you ought to use the P2P pool. The P2P pool is great because it's totally decentralized. And even if you get above 51%, it can't execute a 51% attack on the network because of the structure of the peer-to-peer nature of it. Okay, and I'm not a miner, bro, but that's what I've read. So, continuing on. And sorry I'm talking so fast. We've got so much to get to that if I take my time with this, we're going to be here all night. So here we go. This is from T. Drudd. This is the CEO of CipherTrace that claims XMR addresses will be blacklisted. Okay, and he's talking about Dave Jenkins here. And Dave says Tornado Cash has addresses that are traceable to sanctions violations, hence the OFAC listing of those addresses. If Monero addresses are used in the same way, expect sanctions investigations, which is silly because, as T. Drudd wisely notes, XMR knows, or XMR blockchain doesn't show any addresses, right? They're stealth addresses, so they ain't going anywhere. And I don't want to spend too much time on this because for all of you who had watched the channel really since the beginning when I said that Michael Saylor is basically like the Antichrist of crypto, this isn't news to you. What is all this stuff? Get out of here. Oh my gosh. How do I get out of here? What? Dude. Okay. Sorry. All right. Michael Saylor dumped as MicroStrategy CEO after $1 billion in Bitcoin loss. Now, I'm not trying to dump on him. I'm not trying to say, yeah, go to hell, Michael Saylor. It's just, I told you this was going to happen. I'm having a little bit of a vanity moment here because I think we're one of the only people out there. Well, no, there are a lot of people out there, to be fair, saying Michael Saylor was misleading people. But we definitely were vocal about that. Michael Saylor has been trying to put microchips into people since the year 2000. He was one of the biggest losers in the tech bubble. He wanted the U.S. dollar to reign as the primary medium of exchange throughout the world and wanted Bitcoin to just be relegated to a store of value as digital, quote-unquote, gold. And so this was everything crypto wasn't supposed to be, and this guy was your biggest contrarian indicator. And I saw so many people that I respected who I deemed to be reasonably intelligent, and I still think they are, mind you, just not maybe in the realm of crypto, share Michael Saylor's videos and say, yeah, this is the guy. Like, you want to listen to Michael Saylor. He's our leader and all this stuff. It's just kind of weird to seeing that happen because I think to a lot of us here on the channel, like, we saw this guy and we're like, yeah, definitely don't follow this guy. You're going to lose a lot. MicroStrategy lost $1 billion. I don't know what's going on with that Nayib Bukele guy in El Salvador, but he is way underwater. Like, he's at the bottom of the ocean in the Titanic level of underwater with his Bitcoin bets. And who knows if it's going to be coming back anytime soon. I mean, we're just getting started with the regulatory response with all the scams that have happened. So, I mean, Bitcoin, could have further to go, but we'll see. And if the Fed continues on the path that they're on with raising rates, yeah, it could definitely go lower. And I don't know what the Fed's doing right now. They've already gone so high with the interest rates. The implications of what they've done are already enormous going into the future here. And all the central banks are raising rates as well. There are a lot of implications to crypto in regards to that. But, Yep. We told you. So, God bless Michael Saylor. Let's pray for him. I'm not trying to, condemn him or anything like that. I'm just trying to say we were ahead of the curve. And, I just had to have a bragging moment. Bitcoin Mining Council. And this is also another reason why I want to bring him up, okay? So he says here that he wants to focus more on Bitcoin. And one thing that he helped start was the Bitcoin Mining Council. Now, this is really interesting. Okay? So it says here the Bitcoin Mining Council is voluntary and an open forum of Bitcoin miners committed to the network and its core principles. We promote transparency, share best practices, and educate the public on the benefits of Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining. Now, Michael Saylor was one of the biggest guys behind this. And, how and why is Michael Saylor involved? Michael Saylor convened the first meeting attended by a number of large North American miners in late May 2021. Now, I just want to connect a few dots for you guys real quick. We've talked about how Bitcoin mining is becoming ever more centralized. It's becoming ever more corporatized. And with the drop of the Bitcoin price, with the rise of the electricity prices, and who knows if there's a move made on Taiwan, A6 miners are probably going to be in demand, which means they're going to become more expensive, which means they're going to be consolidated in fewer hands. There's going to be more centralization in Bitcoin mining because the marginal miner is going to be priced out. They're not going to be able to make a profit doing this. The only person who can are those, or the only people who can are those who can scale their operations. And who are typically them? Well, the big corporates, right? And a couple of these names are going to be familiar to you. We've got Riot Blockchain, we've got MicroStrategy, Marathon Digital, and Galaxy Digital. Galaxy Digital has partnerships with Blockstream, which is Adam Back's company, and we've looked into Blockstream before, very much funded by the global elite, MasterCard, etc. It's rumored that they are behind, keeping the block size small in the Blockstream wars back in 2017, and they made a huge initiative to do that, which really stunted the adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So Galaxy Digital is pretty close with them. They have mining operations with Blockstream, as far as I can tell, which are net zero or net neutral. And that's Mike Novogratz's company, and Mike Novogratz is like a Goldman Sachs bro, or at least he was. Okay, so that's something to note. Riot Blockchain, that's been invested in by the likes of BlackRock to a rather significant degree. BlackRock partners with Coinbase. Yeah, there's that. We'll get to that here in a sec. I had another story pulled up about them getting into Bitcoin mining and how Riot was one of the bigger companies involved in that. Yeah, here we go. BlackRock enters the Bitcoin mining sector with investments in Marathon Digital Holdings, Riot Blockchain. Okay, so a newly released BlackRock filing with the SEC dated June 30th, 2021. They've only consolidated their position since, has revealed that the firm has invested more than $382 million in shares of Marathon Digital and Riot Blockchain, making it the second highest shareholder of both Bitcoin mining companies. Okay, so that's rather significant. They own 16.3% of ding, 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 MicroStrategy, okay, Michael Saylor's company. So we see the dots connecting. BlackRock, a huge holder of MicroStrategy right here, Riot Blockchain right here, Marathon Digital Holdings right here. Okay, so you're starting to see the consolidation. And if you remember from a video we did a long time ago, Marathon Digital was the mining company which had broke ground in establishing the first OFAC compliant Bitcoin mining pool. Okay, so essentially that means they have to link up the OFAC sanctions list with their mining pool to ensure that no sanctioned Bitcoins are going through their mining process. They're not being included in any blocks that they're mining. Okay. They went back on that, but I still think that's going to be coming in the future where you have to make sure that you are not mining crypto that is from enemy countries or is associated with high-risk activity or, comes from a sanctioned address, okay, which there have been dozens and dozens of sanctioned addresses added just in the last few days, and they keep adding more and more and more. It's a trend, okay? So the fact that BlackRock's now involved and, BlackRock is all about ESG, which isn't just about environmental concerns, but social and governmental concerns, which are about essentially making sure everything is legal and, part of the regulated networks. That has implications. They're a part of Riot. And I haven't really looked into these other Bitcoin mining companies here, but looking into this Forbes article where there's a lot of money moving around because a lot of miners have lost a lot of money. They are going belly up on their loans, and they're trying to get financing. Somewhere here, they talk about a couple of these mining firms. Okay, so you got Galaxy Digital, which is big in the ASIC financing industry, as well as Foundry, which is the digital currency group, which we've talked about here on the channel. I'm trying to find. Oh, here we go. Here's Argo. Argo took out loans from Galaxy Digital in 2021. Hut 8 Mining financed ASICs through Foundry, digital currency group, while also drawing from Galaxy Digital. Okay, so Galaxy Digital financing Argo and Hut 8. Okay, so this is more than just some voluntary get together of mining bros who are like, hey, we have like hobbies or whatever. Let's meet after school. Like, no, they are intrinsically connected on a very like connected financial front, if you know what I'm trying to say. So that's something to note. And when you really look into everything that's going on with crypto, and go check out Money Today Show, that guy's been doing like the Lord's work, piecing all these things together to a degree that nobody else is really. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. Look at the digital currency group. Look at our videos regarding that. MasterCard, Visa, the legacy financial system, DeFi, they're all coming together into one giant thing. And it's going to be deployed against the public. Blockchain and crypto are going to become your worst enemies. I'm telling you as sure as I'm sitting here. Okay, they've allowed this competition to take place so that they could have the best technologies rise to the top. And then what they're going to do is they're going to adopt those technologies, like Chainlink, for instance, and which is partnered with the World Economic Forum. And then they're going to deploy that against the public. They're going to ensnare you and entrap you in a system that you once thought was hip, that you once thought was cool and made you a lot of money and, made you believe you're going to somehow get a world of liberty and freedom. They're going to use that to totally enslave you financially and maybe otherwise, right? We saw back during the whole COVID thing, Algorand was working on digital ID so that developers of health and COVID passports could have information linked to blockchain. Okay, so this is more information on the crypto coup d'etat that I want you guys to be aware of. All this stuff is still working behind the scenes and connecting together. And another reason we want to be in Monero, because Monero doesn't have anything to do with this. Okay, it's just totally outside of this new system which they're coming up with, where the legacy financial system is turning into the new crypto world order. And yeah, you may make tendies with the adoption trade, but thereafter, you're going to live in a world where the tendies don't even really matter. So there's that. On to the next thing. Let's talk more about Bitcoin mining. New York. This is somewhat old news back from June, but I didn't get a comment on this because I was out. New York just passed a bill cracking down on Bitcoin mining. Here's everything that's in it. Okay. And so here we go. You're going to see a lot of like ESG language here. Lawmakers in New York just passed a bill to ban certain Bitcoin mining operations that run on carbon-based power sources, right? So here we see the continuation of a trend that we noticed quite a while ago taking place in Europe, taking place in the United States, and other parts of the world, Australia, where you have big institutional investors getting involved with Bitcoin mining. You've got regulators saying that, hey, we need to get rid of proof of work maybe because it's too environmentally unfriendly. We need to maybe move to Bitcoin, maybe move Bitcoin to proof of stake because it's more environmentally friendly and, by the way, easier to control by the elites. And you're going to see more of this. And they're making it, again, into an environmental concern. But that's not the main concern. The main concern is their lack of control, right? And if they can convince you that it's an environmental problem, then you can go to proof of stake, think that's like the best crypto ever. It's going to save the planet, but they're going to have full control over that. But this is one of the main reasons why Ethereum is trying to move to proof of stake, because they saw this coming. That's something to know. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to mine this stuff if you're not doing it in an environmentally friendly way, which plays into, again, a theory that we've had where you're going to need a license or a permit to mine Bitcoin, or to mine Bitcoin just like you would mine anything else. Just like you need a permit to drill for oil, just like you need a permit to go mine rocks in your backyard to get some gold out of the ground, you need a permit to mine Bitcoin because of the environmental concerns, right? That's going to be a thing. That's going to be a thing. And Blockstream, Galaxy Digital, I can't remember the name of these other big mining firms that we've seen over in Europe and other parts of the world, but all of them have this initiative to go green and to do all their mining with net zero intentions. Okay, and by the way, what can you see as a result of that? Just think for a second. What are these big mining corporations going to want to do in order to consolidate market share? Well, they're going to lobby the government in order to make regulations like these, so that they, who can afford, because of their economies of scale, to mine this stuff in a less profitable but more environmentally friendly way, you're going to get barriers of entry. You're going to get, again, permits. You're going to have them consolidate market share, which means you're going to have more centralization of the Bitcoin mining, which means you're going to have more censorship, okay? Censorship capacity, I should say. And all that's going to play into OFAC mining, OFAC compliant mining pools and everything like that, I suspect. That's my theory. So I think that's the main thing. I just want to comment on that. Let's see. If Hochul signs the bill to make New York the first state in the country to ban blockchain technology infrastructure, could cause a domino effect across the U.S., which is currently at the forefront of global Bitcoin mining, accounting for 38% of the world's miners. That's more than I remember. It's going up. Because I think the last time we spoke, it was at 35%. Now we're at 38%. So it's inching upwards, right? And a lot of this mining is consolidated amongst the corporates who, through regulatory initiatives, could become one essentially hash entity. You know what I mean? They can be directed by one intention. So the New York bill, which previously passed the state assembly in late April before heading to the state senate, calls for a 2-year moratorium on certain cryptocurrency mining operations, which use proof-of-work authentication methods to validate blockchain transactions. Proof-of-work mining, which requires sophisticated gear and a whole lot of electricity, does not require sophisticated gear necessarily. If you're mining Monero, which is proof-of-work, all you need is a laptop, which is great, and a whole lot of electricity, not really relative to the alternatives, is used to, and I'm not even a Bitcoin bro, but the whole uses too much energy, it's fun, it's stupid, is used to create Bitcoin. Ethereum is switching to a less energy-intensive process, but will still use this method for at least another few months. I think that's all there is to say. Let's move on. So let's talk about some big news that happened recently with Cake Wallet, old sponsor of the channel. This is huge news, guys. This is huge news, man. I think maybe I was supposed to say that earlier. I'm just trying to organize my tabs real quick for y'all. But let's see. I think maybe this is all I want to say about it. So Cake Wallet introduced something called Cake Pay, the easiest way to spend your Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Monero at over 150,000 merchant locations in the U.S. Okay, so what does that mean? It means it's a big freaking deal. That's what that means. Instantly purchase gift cards of the exact amount you need to save 1 to 3%. So you're going to save money by using this service, okay, which is a big deal. And I think it's going to incentivize more people to start accepting Monero as well. Because if people go to shops asking if, hey, are you on Cake Pay or do you take digital gift cards? You know. Let me explain what this is first, because I don't think you guys understand kind of how this works, which makes sense because I didn't explain it. Basically, you take your Monero, you go into Cake Pay, which is a feature on your Cake Wallet. You swipe to the right. There it is. You give them an email. Give them an email that you've never used before so that you stay private and anonymous. And you get access to buying digital gift cards for the exact amount that you need at over 150,000 merchant locations. So say you go to IHOP and go check out Monero Talk. Go check out Doug Toomey. He's got great examples of this working. I think Scylla from the Open Economy Initiative, she also did a video. Excuse me. But you can buy your meal at IHOP by going to the counter with your receipt. Say you owe $25.63. So you go into Cake Pay and you buy an IHOP gift card for $25.63. You send that exact amount of Monero to this service. It then gives you a barcode, which is your gift card. They scan the barcode and boom, you've paid for your IHOP using Monero. That's how that works. And by the way, you save 1 to 3%. And that's huge. That's absolutely huge. Cake Wallet says this is possibly the largest ever Cake Wallet and Monero.com app update ever. We see this as being a huge step forward for easily living off digital assets using only your email. You can purchase the exact amount you need. For example, for $20.69, minimum and maximum amounts per gift card vary by merchant, but most allow any number between $500 to $500. Some go to $2,000. So it's cheaper than spending cash now because you save money. And by the way, the Monero transaction fees are essentially non-existent, so you don't have to worry about that cutting into your profit or into your deal there. And yeah, it's a big deal. It's a huge, huge deal. This is going to expand adoption significantly, I think. And if you go to a store, like I was trying to convey earlier, say you go to a store and they don't accept these gift cards, then you can show them this and be like, dude, this is awesome. Like, this is the future. I can anonymously transact with you with this cryptocurrency, which is basically free to transact, low transaction costs, super scalable, so a lot of people are going to be able to use this in the future. And it saves you money because you don't have to pay the credit card companies, which take a cut out of your profit. And maybe they don't want to get onto the gift card program. I'm not sure how that works in the back end, to be honest with you. But maybe they're like, oh, man, that's kind of cool. This could save me a lot of money. And if you're telling me that I can use this to maybe stock up on inventory from my suppliers, maybe they take these gift cards, then maybe I should start to accept Monero. So this opens a lot of doors. I think it'd be also great if we got gold and silver merchants on board, because one thing that we're really trying to do here is we're trying to connect the underground economy with the regulated economy. We want them to all be one accessible juncture that Monero Bros can go to. And I saw a tweet by, I think your name is Monero Boating Club or something like that. You said that when I have Monero in my pocket, I feel like a kid in a candy store. The world is my oyster. I can go anywhere. I can go to the dark web marketplace. I can go to, IHOP, like I said earlier. You can go to a lot of different places, and you can buy whatever you want with Monero. I mean, it's really got incredible capacities now. I think that's important. But if you go to gold and silver, guys, and you buy gold and silver with Monero, well, now you have a currency which is accepted all over the world, which is a big deal, huge deal. And I would encourage you to look more into that and to get on that. And I think there are some gold and silver vendors who do accept Monero, but I think they're more so in Montana and Wyoming and the upper Northwest, where people are weird but awesome. You know what I mean? So we need to get that going. It's awesome. It's awesome. Adoption is happening. It's sweet. So Ian Niculescu, sorry, bro, I can't say your name. You want to see something really cool? Watch this. And this is Doug Tublin's video. We're not going to watch it, but it's really quick. Like, you go up to the counter, you're out of there in 30 seconds. It's really fast, and it's going to be even faster with the new update that's coming along. So, I'm not following you, bro. Sorry, man. Why use custodial Lightning network like Strike? Why go through the hassle of being tracked and traced on chain or by the Chainalysis nodes on Lightning Network? Just spend Monero, use Cake Wallet with the gift cards in the app. Yeah, so this is a huge competitor now to Lightning Network, because Lightning Network is kind of unnecessarily complicated. It's kind of unnecessarily complicated. It doesn't do the job as well as Monero. We've talked about how you can use Monero zero conf in order to basically have instant transactions, especially if you're transacting with people you know or you're transacting small amounts. Zero conf is typically fine. I'm not going to officially endorse that because you typically want to wait for 1 or 2 confirmations, but you're typically fine if you're doing a zero conf transaction. And zero conf transaction just means like the transaction is announced to the network. It's something that happens instantaneously, which shows that you have put in the first step to making the transaction go through. And the concern is maybe it doesn't go through because you try to double spend them, but double spending isn't really something, which is a concept to 99% of the people out there. Probably not a problem. We've made videos on that. Go check out Monero in real world use case. Check out our top 5 reasons Monero is awesome, or the best cryptocurrency or whatever. We've talked about it, but this just makes it that much better and more competitive with Lightning Network, which people say is instantaneous, private, fast, but Monero, I think, is already that and has adoption. So, and by the way, to make Lightning really easy for you, in most cases, you've got to use custodial services. At least for somebody like me. I know like people like Set for Privacy, they can do stuff which is generally more complicated to the average person. But for people like me, I like to keep it simple. And if I'm keeping it simple, I'm using Monero. I'm not using even custodial Lightning Network stuff, because there are still KYC things you have to do, which I don't want to sign up for. It's too much of a hassle. I think it's like $1,000. You got to give the social security number, your birthday, and your personal information to Strike if you want to have $1,000 Bitcoin on there, which I don't want to do. So, yep, Monero is becoming ever more competitive. It's awesome. Now let's take a look at the most recent adoption numbers. Bitcoin on chain for global purchases for coin cards, which are gift cards. Bitcoin's at the top with 41%. Monero is number 2 with 19%. And let's skip all the way down to Lightning Network. Lightning Network is 3%. So more people are using Dogecoin to buy coin card gift cards than the Lightning Network. Okay. And that's globally. If we look at Canada, the number is 48%, Monero 14%, but you can expect that from the Canadians because they don't know what's happening. I mean, seriously, after what happened with the Canadian Freedom Convoy, where they literally shut people's bank accounts off and they sanctioned Bitcoin addresses and crypto addresses and all that, the fact that you guys are still using Bitcoin to this extent is hilarious, okay? You Canadians need to get wise, boy. Monero, 14.35%. That's not bad. But we have some work to do, obviously. And then in the United States, Monero beating out the competition by big leagues. Okay, 52%. Bitcoin in second place at 35%. Lightning Network being used 0.34% of the transactions. So that's quite something. I've never used Binance Pay before, but Binance Pay is consistently up there in the ranks. Kind of interesting. Probably not as good as Monero. But those are just some updates on the adoption. And I thought this was something that I was noticing recently. But Cake Wallet noticed back in like 2020 that Monero has become the Voldemort of crypto. And I guess it's because of like events that we saw today where people are like, man, it'd be great if we had a privacy coin. Wouldn't it be great if we had something that was private on the base layer instead of we having to use these layer 2 solutions and all this stuff? And everyone's like, you ever heard of Monero? And they just get ignored. Nobody responds. This is kind of funny. You know, everybody knows Monero is like the coin that you want to go to in order to, you know, kind of make the stuff work and kind of make crypto what it should be. But for whatever reason, it's just people don't want to yell Monero in a crowded Bitcoin theater. You know, you're going to start a panic. So more comments on Monero adoption. Check this out. We've got a lot of growth here, percentage to Bitcoin transactions. Now, some people may say this may be because of Lightning Network adoption, but as we saw over here, Lightning Network adoption really isn't that significant if we're looking at just this statistic here. And from what I hear, there's just really not too much activity happening that would account for all this increase in Monero usage, or at least much of any of it at all. So yeah, Monero just continues to grow in transaction volume against Bitcoin, and it's worthy to note that a lot of the Bitcoin transactions which do take place are taking place on exchanges and are taking place amongst traders, because Bitcoin is sort of like the reserve currency and big pool liquidity that people go to go from one exchange to another, to go from, you know, their altcoin into cash. And so it's a big liquidity pool that allows you to go to many different vectors into many different locations. So a lot of that may not be real world activity that's happening. It could just be trading and speculation. So with Monero taking over the dark web marketplaces, and I think, you know, just in the last few weeks, there have been 2 new Monero marketplaces that have been added, Monero only marketplaces on the dark web. We can expect that a lot of the transactions which are happening from Monero are actively economically oriented, not traded oriented. So that's something I want to note. Moving on, the IRS is working on a new tax form to capture your crypto activity. So yeah, that's something to note. Let me take a quick break real quick. Let me be right back. Been chatting for a little bit, and I think we're maybe halfway through everything that I want to talk about. So sit tight. One sec. So I just want to comment on this Forbes article real quick. The IRS is working on a new tax form to capture crypto activity. Yeah, so in the news, it's like a big discussion how the IRS is getting 87,000 new people. They're going to go after the middle class. They're going to go after the poor. There are only so many billionaires, so it's not like they're going to go after them, even though, you know, to go through a lot of those tax forms does take quite a lot of time. And the IRS is significantly behind on processing returns. From what I've read, they have like 4 million returns still to go from 2021. So they're quite behind, and I'm not saying this is a justification for them to get funded, but you know, it could be that they really do need the resources to get through a lot of that backlog, and it's not just totally malevolent. It sounds crazy that I'm defending the IRS, but maybe that's what happens when you become a tax pro, which some of you know I'm a tax accountant. But I do want to just note that while I do believe the IRS has been used in a political way against political opponents, as was the case with Lois Lerner, and so maybe this is a pretext for them going after their political enemies based on political affiliation, which totally can happen. I mean, the United States is effectively a third world banana republic at this point. What I do want to point out is it may not be, you know, arbitrarily the middle class. What I think they're going to do with those 87,000 new people has a lot to do with crypto, actually. And I want to read this because we've been saying for quite a while that they're going to go after crypto bros. They're going to go after the crypto bros. Elizabeth Warren has talked about it for quite a long time. We've heard some chatter about this, and we all know that, like, a lot of crypto bros are just not paying their taxes. They're not reporting their gains and losses, and yeah, they want that money. Okay, they want that money. The thing about blockchain is that it's there forever. And furthermore, anything you do on a blockchain can and will be used against you, okay, in a court of law, mind you. I mean, they don't need to get any warrants to go look on the blockchain for digging into your financial activity. It's there for everybody to see. This has already been set in court precedent. And so I think that they're going to develop a lot of tools to further track and trace cryptocurrency. I think they're probably going to establish relationships with the likes of CipherTrace and Chainalysis. I think that they're going to really look through the blockchain, connect a lot of dots, and try to find revenue there, because there's been a lot of money made in crypto, okay? But it hasn't been reported in many cases. And as Forbes mentions here, let me see if I can find it. Currently, there's no dedicated 1099 form to capture one's annual cryptocurrency gains and losses. In the absence of a cryptocurrency-specific tax form, certain exchanges have used Form 1099-K to report cryptocurrency activity in the past. Some have decided not to issue any forms for gains and losses. As a result, the information reported to the IRS by exchanges has been poor to non-existent for a long time. And anyone who has tried to figure their gains and losses using like the tools provided by Coinbase, they come up very short. It's very difficult to properly calculate that stuff, because you have to go back and you have to determine what the USD value was when you're making these trades. There are a lot of data points which just aren't really there that you need to know, and you got to do a lot of extra homework. It's doable. And so you don't have much of an excuse not to, but a lot of people, like, because they don't receive a form like they just said, and they don't know anything about tax law, they're not reporting it, which is why on the 1040 starting in 2018 or 19, they put that question on there: have you been dealing at all with crypto? And if you check that box, then likely you moved up a little bit on their interest chain. And that encouraged you to want to look into your own situation and make sure you report everything. But they're going to go after crypto people. You have to understand this. They're going to go after the crypto people, especially if there's more adoption. We've been saying for a long time that unrealized capital gains taxes is going to make its way somehow into the tax code. It's going to happen, as sure as I'm sitting here. And they made a couple tries at it. Last year, and they didn't succeed. But they're going to keep trying. I assure you. They're going to say it's the billionaire income tax, like they said last time. We're just going to go after the billionaires. And you remember back in 1913, with the income tax, they were just going to go after the billionaires and the very rich too. They're just top 1%. And then look at today. Everyone's paying income tax now, okay? And if everyone's making a lot of money in cryptocurrency, and they have this hodl mentality, and they don't want to sell, but that's where a lot of money is. And, of course, the governments are going ever more bankrupt. People are starving. We're in a depression. We're in a tough time, blah, blah, blah. They're going to try to find a scapegoat. It's probably going to be the crypto bros and the billionaires. And then they're going to put into effect unrealized capital gains taxes. I think that's honestly going to happen. We could be still quite a ways away from that. But in order to make that kind of thing work, they need to set the groundwork for KYC. They need to set the groundwork for everyone reporting what's going on the exchanges, which is sort of where this is coming in, where exchanges are going to be mandated to report the activity of their clients to the IRS. And once you get that infrastructure set up, it's going to be easier to figure out where the money is and then go after it. So Forbes goes on to say, this has led to lower tax compliance rates among crypto users because customers don't receive a form at the end of the year. They falsely believe that there's no activity to report and nor taxes to pay. And depending on how the IRS views you, I mean, if they can make the case against you that you purposely didn't pay your taxes and that you're committing fraud, then there's no statute of limitations. I mean, it could be that you had activity on the blockchain going back to like 2014. They just figured out you were associated with that activity. They can go after you. And they can just say, yeah, it's fraud. And even if it's not, you're going to get tied up in a tax court and you're going to have problems. Now, I think they have a campaign going on right now to get people to fess up, basically, to what they didn't report before. And they're coming out and they're saying you're not going to have any kind of excess penalty. It's a goodwill, good faith, olive branch to anyone who just maybe didn't know about the tax law, but now you have an opportunity to come clean about the gains that you made. After that's done, they may have the pretext at that point to say, well, you didn't come before, so maybe you're coming in bad faith now, or we're finding about this now, and you really try to conceal it. So now we're going to accuse you of fraud, and you're going to have to pay us taxes, and maybe you have huge penalties to incur on top of that. Maybe even go to jail, if they don't like your Facebook posts or your tweets, right? We're getting to that point. So that's something to note. I mean, I really do encourage people to pay their taxes. I have encouraged people to pay their taxes since the beginning. And even if you're in a Monero, I encourage people to do it. I encourage you to do it. Part of it is because I have to. So that's coming. They're going to crack down on exchanges. Any exchanges not doing this, they're going to try to shut down. And something that's still probably a long ways far out is something that we read about in our AI tax blockchain Unholy Alliance video, which I think was one of the more important videos that we've done, talking about articles which have been written that seem to outline a future where they turn the tax code into a kind of computer code, make that interoperable with public blockchain technologies, which by the time this rolls around will be totally KYC. Everything will be known that's happening on these blockchains. And then they're going to have AI basically facilitate tax payments and reports to the proper authorities based on what's going on the blockchains and what activity is associated with who. So I think that's probably going to be coming in the future. And the people who wrote these articles were talking about how they're going to simplify the tax code so that they can make international tax codes, which could accommodate the basic tax needs of every country. And then at that point, you have global taxes. And we've talked about that in different videos. I'll try to link them. I'm out of link space probably, but I think I talked about that in like the public blockchain, global something. But they're doing global minimum taxes now. That's been talked about. So we do see a global tax order coming. And on a global tax order, you're going to have global financial orders. And on top of that, you're going to have probably political orders establish themselves as well, because you're going to need global organizations in order to manage these international tax initiatives. And then out of there, you're going to have politics. And that's sort of how the trend was with the EU. And that's how the trend was with, Bretton Woods and the United Nations and that kind of thing. So that's just something to look out for. I think crypto is probably going to be used as a pretext to help facilitate global government. So something to look out for. This is something which caught my eye. This is relatively new news. August 3rd. This is from BNN Bloomberg. Portuguese crypto exchanges dealt a blow as banks closed accounts. Now, remember, everyone was saying, let's move to Portugal. Like, they've got no taxes yet on crypto transactions, and the exchanges are nice and blah, 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 right? But we're seeing something interesting happen, which I think we're going to see more of as this give and take between, oh, do you want the tendies? Then you're going to have to get more KYC. And oh no, we have more KYC, but we want the adoption, we want the institutions to get in on this, so maybe we need more KYC. Why is that? Because we want the tendies, right? So you're going to see more of that give and take. Some of Portugal's biggest banks are closing accounts of digital currency exchanges, a blow to Europe's most crypto-friendly destination, or one of them anyway. Portugal's biggest bank, Banco Santander, shut down all of Lisbon-based accounts this week. The move took place after two smaller banks in Portugal also closed the company's accounts. They didn't provide an official explanation, but check it out. Cryptocurrency companies globally have long struggled to open and maintain bank accounts, with large lenders citing concerns about the sector's anti-money laundering and know your customer standards. So there you go. There it is right there. You want banks to get involved with your exchanges. You want institutional adoption. You're going to need more AML. You're going to need more KYC. It's pretty much what it says right there. Banco Comercial said in an emailed statement that its duty is to inform the competent authorities whenever it sees quote-unquote suspicious transactions. Well, can't do that without KYC and AML standards. A representative said the lender acts in accordance with its perception of risk, that any decision to maintain an account depends on several quote-unquote factors. Right. So, there you go. They want more KYC. They want more AML. If you want the gains, bro, you're going to accept that. Anything else going on? No, I think that's it. So let's go to the next phase of this video. I want to talk now about some of the macro stuff which is going on. I think this is probably going to be the favorite part of a number of people, because this is where we get to the nitty-gritty of kind of what's going on in the world, and it may stoke some of y'all's doomer sensitivities or sensibilities, but as I said before, there's a white pill in every dark news story. So, what's that? All right. So, you guys remember us talking about this a good while ago. Check out the MasterCard carbon credit card video we did. A lot of good information in there about what's going to be happening in regards to environmentalism and tracking your carbon emissions, and how that breaks into finance, and why it is you're going to want Monero, so that you're not too exposed to the energy rationing and the carbon rationing, which could be coming as a result of this initiative here. So this is from Peter Sweden. He says, "This is insane," in all caps. He says, "There is a Swedish credit card that tracks your carbon emissions, and it blocks further purchases if you exceed your CO2 limit." Remember when this was called a crazy conspiracy theory? So that's what's going on. Okay, you guys ready? As the world inches closer to crossing the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature limit, it's becoming clear that our consumption patterns play a pivotal role in influencing the direction of climate change. So I want to get to where they're talking about this, because I don't want to talk about the science at all. Doesn't matter for this conversation. A recent innovation called the carbon credit card calculates the carbon footprint of our purchases and suggests the best carbon offset programs to offset our emissions, while still offering the same perks and services as regular credit cards. The zero carbon card from Aspiration is one of the best carbon credit cards on the market right now. The card automatically plants a tree, which helps to offset carbon in the Earth's atmosphere each time one of its customers makes a purchase, and provides up to 1% cash back on all purchases. Now, this is key. The reason I want to bring this up right now is because we're going to see the same pattern of assimilation, you could say, or integration of this, as we saw with the stabbies, that I think we'll see with the CBDCs, and as we'll see with other things, I'm sure. But the process goes something like this. You're given an incentive to sign on to this program. So with the vaccines, it was, you're going to get some free chicken nuggets, you're going to get some fries, you're going to get $100, you're going to get $1,000. They gave you incentives in order to encourage you to get the stabby, right? And then when they had a good number of people do that, they said, oh, well, it'll make your life easier if you get the stabby, because if you want to go to the grocery store, then you're going to need it. If you want to participate in having fun with your friends on the weekend by going to certain venues or going to bars, you're going to have it. So essentially they set parameters and limits as to what you could do if you didn't have it. And if you wanted to have your freedom back, then you would get it. So they said you could have your normal life back if you get this new thing. And then what happened? Well, then they force you to get it, essentially. You're going to lose your job. You're going to, go to a quarantine camp if you land in the wrong country. Okay, you're going to, maybe go to jail if you're outside of your limits. I mean, what Australia did was insane. Okay, but that's the progression, and that could be the progression that we see with this, where at first you're incentivized, you get cash back. Maybe you get a nice little picture of the tree that they planted because you, bought a vegan sandwich. You bought the Impossible Whopper, and then if you want to buy at certain stores, you're going to have to use the carbon credit card. You won't be able to use anything else. And then it's going to be you have to use it, or else maybe you're cut off from the CBDC. I suspect if there is a CBDC, it's going to be linked into something like this. But Monero definitely allows you to have more flexibility financially otherwise, because then you're going to be able to transact without anybody tracking, tracing not only the amounts, but also the amount of carbon that you could be emitting with your transaction. I mean, I sound silly saying this stuff. It sounds crazy. It is crazy, 100%. It's totally crazy. But this is just the world we're in. Okay, so that's something to look into. I think Monero could definitely help people in this case. And this kind of thing is going to boom black markets because there's going to be a huge contingency of the population who are not going to go along with this, as far as I'm concerned. But who knows? Maybe if their depot program works effectively enough and they're able to get enough of the control over people, who knows? Who knows? First, it was you can't enter a supermarket without the health passport. Then, deliberate food supply sabotage and centralization. Now, direct farm-to-consumer trade is under increasing regulatory pressure. At some point, there will be a black market for food. That's something that I tweeted recently, and this is something which was tweeted by Wendala to you, and they took a picture, and this looks like a Facebook post from Northern Farm Training Institute, somewhere in the Northwest Territories. This is in Canada. It says, turns out we're not allowed to sell our produce to our community on our own farm. Last Saturday, our farm stand on our own property was shut down by the government. The NWT government has made the selling of food from farmers directly to people illegal now from the NWT. The public is only allowed to buy food from producers who have government permission through a government permitting program. We still want to continue sharing our produce with the people in our community, especially in a community that is already struggling with food insecurity and access to fresh and healthy food, and especially in times like this when food shortages are on the horizon. Yeah. Mono Crypto has talked about this, he says, and I think this is something which we can expect to see more of because there seems to be an assault on the food supplies. There are just too many unlikely and improbable instances of just food warehouse production facilities going up in smoke, trains carrying fertilizer just derailing, ammonia production factories just shutting down because energy is getting too expensive. And ammonia is important for the creation of fertilizer, which is important for the production of crops. And there's just too much going on to have that all be coincidence, in my opinion, my personal opinion. And it just seems to me that we could see in the very near future price controls on food, A, because of inflation, but B, because the lack of supply is going to cause more inflation. And when I say inflation, I mean it in the technical economic sense of the term because of money printing. Because of money printing, prices are going up, but you're also going to have prices going up because of shortages, okay? And because of the shortages, you're going to have rationing. And when you have rationing, you're going to have black market activity because people are going to want to get more than what the irrationed allotment is, okay? And so you're going to have to use Monero in order to do that, especially as we go further into a cashless society. And a point that we're going to see in the future articles that we're about to go into is as the black market grows and as they fear money leaking out of their ever more tightly regulated system, they're going to institute stronger capital controls. They're going to crack down on cash usage. They're going to prevent people from being able to transact outside of that system, which means they're going to limit your capacity to buy cryptocurrency, okay? KYC is definitely going to play more into this. They're going to incentivize probably custodial holding of crypto on exchanges so they can track everything you're doing. I think we're already seeing that in Europe with the crackdown on self-hosted wallets. they're going to. Well, we'll get to them. We'll get to them. But you guys can see what's coming. They want to keep as much money and value in the system as possible so that they can better control the decline and prevent there from being networks which are established outside of their control. And you may need Monero and you may need private money to buy food from your farmer. I mean, that's insane, but that's what we're dealing with now. Because you may have to just buy it under the table because it may be illegal for you to go to a farm and buy eggs because they don't go through the FDA and then the 10 other government agencies to check it. And they don't get their taxes, they probably think, and that kind of thing. So this is why now we need to talk about price controls because it's been part of our core theory here that as we move into the future, because of inflation, because of the supply chain problems, we're going to see politicians panic at the rising prices and knee-jerk into price controls to make it look like they're doing something and that they're trying to show some solidarity and compassion with the poor and the middle class who are being eviscerated. And they're going to do price controls. That's going to lead to more shortages, which is going to lead to rationing, okay? Again, the black market boom will follow, and we're going to see more of this, okay? But first I want to note, these are the two darknet marketplaces that I mentioned earlier, which are now Monero only. Again, Monero continues to take over the dark web marketplaces. And yeah, just in the last couple weeks, you have Dark Moon marketplace, and then you have like Mellow Monero marketplace or something else like that. Something, I don't know. But they don't use Bitcoin. And that's super key. Super, super key. So Monero is increasing in dominance on the black markets. The black markets are getting ready to boom. Okay, that's bullish, right? And we'll get to that article. But as I said, to be clear here, none of this is an endorsement of illicit financial activity or whatever, but an analysis of the incentive structures being put in place by insane and hostile policies. Securing food networks with private currency and other privacy tools is getting important. Indeed it is. So let's talk about this now. Israel places limits on cash transactions to fight financial crime. Okay. So the war on cash in Israel escalates with new bans on cash transactions. Personal transactions over $4,400 and business transactions over $1,760 have been banned. Violators will face stiff penalties of up to 30% of the transaction's value. Okay, so they're disincentivizing you from transacting outside the system. It's that simple. This is from the gsixexchange.com or something like that. Why this is alarming, this is exactly what many sound proponents are worried about. Government is setting limits on the freedom of its citizens to make cash transactions. Under the guise of financial crime enforcement, the Israeli government is ushering in the use of digital payments, possibly in preparation for their CBDC, as primary means for legally sanctioned transactions. Yep. Right. So that's giving us convictions that we're right. And we're going into cashless society, so you're not going to be able to use cash in order to engage the black market. I think like 95% of the dollars in existence are digital. I mean, we pretty much have a totally digital system already. So to engage in the black market, you're going to need digital private cash. And Monero's number one. So, again, not encouraging you to do that. I'm just saying. So, according to the Israeli tax authority, the law is meant to reduce the use of cash by Israelis and fight against crime, including money laundering, tax evasion, terrorist financing, blah, 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 right? Exactly. And France's central bank announced this month it's hoping to launch a wholesale CBDC by 2023. So France is getting close to CBDC. In June, the Bank of Israel announced that it would test the feasibility of a retail central bank digital currency this year. Yeah, it'd be easy to trace and monitor. Exactly. And the head of the Bank of International Settlements admitted as such. Yeah, CBDC would be awesome because we'd essentially be able to track and trace and account for the transactions of our citizens to a degree that we never once had before. So, yep. But you all know that's coming. You're a smart audience. You get it. I'm kind of just preaching to the choir right now, but for those who don't know, this is why we're freaking hyper mega bullish Monero. It just makes sense. And even if you're not bullish on the USD price of Monero, like the use case of Monero is really becoming obvious and important. So this is something that's also interesting. This actually came out, I think, today. This is from One Big Me, spotted at a retail branch of NatWest, one of the biggest banks in the UK. And it says here, we're going to read this. Our primary aim is to keep customers safe and secure, and our branches follow our processes carefully to achieve this. This will include asking you questions about the purpose of your cash withdrawal. We may also ask for supporting documentation such as an invoice. This helps us validate the withdrawal as genuine and protect you against fraud and scams, right? They're just trying to, I mean, guys, how many times have we seen the justification for more regulation in the financial sphere because of fraud, because they're trying to protect you? This is what we're seeing with the Lightning Network too, with watchtower nodes, right? We're trying to protect you against fraud. KYC, we're trying to protect you against fraud, right? It's all about protecting you. It's not about surveilling you. We don't need, please note that it is advisable to give 24 hours notice on large cash withdrawals, amounts over $2,000. So I remember it was like $10,000. If you wanted to withdraw $10,000, this is before inflation was a significant problem. You had to fill out forms, and you had to, they would file probably like a suspicious activity report on you and all this stuff. But now it's just $2,000. That's what's considered a large cash withdrawal. You can pre-advise us of your transaction via our customer credit. It's getting late. Customer contact team or in the branch. And this is key. This is key. I love how they even bolded this and left this for last. In some instances, we may choose to decline the cash withdrawal based on the information provided surrounding the transaction. This will be at the branch's own discretion. For more information, please review our T&Cs that can be found, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they're literally telling you, we'll let you know if we want to give you your money. We'll let you know if you qualify to have cash because you gave us a written report as to what you're going to be doing with it. Okay, so that tells you a lot of not only where we're going in regards to where society is going, right, and what their intentions are with surveillance, but we can also extrapolate what this may mean for crypto. If they're doing this, then how far away are we from, oh, you want to take your Monero off the exchanges? If it's still on the exchanges, right? You want to take your crypto off the exchange. What are you doing this for? Okay, are you sending it to somebody else? Because if you're sending it to somebody else, well, you're going to have to pay your capital gains tax. You're going to have to report that. And if you don't report that, and you're sending it to yourself, well, say you send that to somebody else and you don't report it, then they do something illegal, then that's you on the hook. And then you may say, well, no, I just didn't report it. Well, why didn't you report it? Are you doing something fraudulent? And so you see where this is all going. And so you're going to be trapped. You're going to be trapped as they move in this direction, and you don't have private cryptocurrency, and you're on the grid with these public blockchains, and you're in the KYC system. Like, you're not going to, you're going to be in it. Like, there's no getting out at that point, especially if they get rid of the layer 2 privacy solutions. Like, how are you going to get out? How are you going to get out? So, and you could say, well, join the circular economy, accept Bitcoin for goods and services. Okay, well, are you going to get yourself a forensics team to look at where that Bitcoin is coming from? Are you going to do the data analytics to make sure it doesn't have taint? Because you're going to have to do that, lest you get tainted Bitcoin, and then you try to give that to somebody else. Who knows? Maybe it was involved in mixing, in which case you may be implicated in illegal activity. So again, you see the problem here. But yeah, they're going to ask you, what are you doing with your cryptocurrency? Why are you taking it off the exchanges? Why don't you keep it on the exchanges? And if you're going to use it for payment, then you need to let us know what you're using it for and who it is you're sending it to. Who knows? Maybe we get to the point where you've got to get like the social security number of the person that you're transacting with. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, anything is possible at this point. But they're limiting people's capacity to use cash for payment. That's what we're seeing. War on cash is on. Moving on. John McDonnell in the UK calls for strict price controls on fuel and food basics. So we're seeing price controls being increasingly discussed. They want to take urgent steps to limit the impact from soaring inflationary pressures on workers and their families, right? So they want to make it look like they're helping people. And if you do price controls, it's going to be that much more difficult to stop the price controls once you realize you have a problem, once you start to have shortages. Because if you take the price controls off, then inflation is going to soar, and then you're going to look like the bad guy. And that's what the central banks are in the position of right now, where they did quantitative easing for a good while, which kept the economy afloat. But they can't get out of quantitative easing, because if they do that, then the rates shoot up, because it's the money that they printed that have kept the rates down, their bond buying programs. And if the rates go up, then credit gets that much more expensive, to the point where credit markets freeze, and then everything falls apart, and then they get blamed for it. So nobody's going to want to be the guy to take away price controls once price controls get put on, which means things will only get worse from there. Okay? And so the black market will then just be in like a secular bull market at that point. So that's going on. To stop inflation protests, Panama fixes prices of groceries and medicine. So effectively what that means, the Panamanian government just announced the creation of black markets for groceries and medicines, as far as anyone's concerned. 72 food items and 150 medicines. Okay? Black markets, booming. Norway. Let's go to Norway, see what's going on. Norway threatens to ration electricity in fresh blow for UK and European energy supplies. And energy is the basis of everything, right? It's the basis for all trade. It's the basis of the transporting of goods, the manufacture of a lot of goods. And so if you start to ration electricity, you're going to have shortages start to pop up with just about everything else, okay? People maybe can't make it to work in the same way that they could before. And so, again, supply chain issues caused by this, which means more shortages, which means more rationing of other goods, which means, again, more of a black market boom. Moving on, this is from bioworld.com. This was from The Telegraph. This was from The Guardian. Sorry if I've been citing. This was Zero Hedge, the Panama article. So this is from bioworld.com, talking about the recent bill which was passed, the anti-inflationary bill, or whatever they called it. Japan's cautionary tale for government drug price controls. And they're talking about that in the context of U.S. policymakers considering introducing Medicare Part D drug price controls in 2022, which is essentially what they just passed in this new bill. So that's coming. So price controls for drugs in the U.S. So marketplace, what is this? I think this is just the history of price controls and how they've never really worked. And this is talking about Coup again. I'll have you guys harken back to when, in the middle of COVID, all of the personal protective equipment just flew off the shelves. And where'd it go? Well, it went to Amazon and other online marketplaces, and they sold at like 10x the cost of what you would have otherwise been able to get at the store for them. And so what did Amazon, the big corporates, do? This wasn't even a government initiative. This was like corporates who were worried about looking bad. And so they kicked these guys off the exchanges, the price gougers. Well, what did they do? Well, they just, poof, got rid of all the supply. So now nobody could buy these things, right? Unless you went to the black market, unless you went to the dark web marketplaces, which reports have now come out, research reports, and have showed that a lot of that supply ended up on the dark web, where you needed Monero to buy it. So again, we're seeing a trend. And we're seeing the super hyper mega bullish case come into effect. Government steps in to control basic goods and service prices to stave off hyperinflation. This is from Malaysia. Okay, this is just a couple days ago. The various measures implemented by the government to control the increase in price of basic goods and services kept the inflation rate in June at a moderate level while avoiding hyperinflation. So they're worried about hyperinflation. And as more governments worry about that, they're going to do more price controls. Okay, it's predictable. Government must consider price control in building materials market, says Adeyemi. So this is like a Niger bro. Or he might be Nigerian. I don't know if he's from Niger or Nigeria, but yeah, price controls in Nigeria. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, we talked about the Panama price controls. And we've got price controls in Argentina. Argentina has extended price controls to over 1,300 consumer products until January 2023. And they've got black markets everywhere. They've got black market for currencies, goods. I mean, it's just normal over there. Argentina's black market dollar trade is illegal, but a part of life. So, yep, you've got that stuff going on everywhere. And we've got price controls in Nepal, in hacked, I guess. And Sri Lanka, this is key. In Sri Lanka, black market for fuel thrives amid gasoline shortage. So you've got people who are putting gas in like soda bottles here to sell out of like the back of funeral homes. So that's what's going on there. So even if you think like there couldn't be a black market for something like fuel because you think you have to go to a gas station to get it, not necessarily the case. So that's something to note. Let's see. I think I've got a couple more things I want to talk about. Yeah, and people are using cash and other things in order to get that fuel, which people need in order to get to work and basically survive. So black markets cropping up all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. And that's bullish from Monero. And I'm not trying to be like inhumane about this. I know it sucks, but I'm just trying to give you guys an out, because if we go into a cashless situation and you've got shortages, like Monero is going to be one of the only ways you can actually transact a currency for something that you need. Now, barter may become a big thing, but best to just have a currency to kind of help you in that situation. So, Russia has banned payment in crypto, so that kind of ties into what we were just talking about before, because they don't want you to have the financial freedom which is afforded by cryptos, being that which allows you to transact outside the system, right? So you can't use digital currency to pay for the services or products, but you can invest still in crypto. And you've got to hold it on their custodial ledgers. So everything tracked and traced, of course. This has to do with Bitcoin mining. Kosovo renews crypto mining ban amid rising energy prices. I think we'll see more of that in certain parts of the world. Thailand plans to tighten crypto oversight, giving central bank more powers to regulate digital assets. So, yeah, I think the crackdown is going to continue all over the world as you have energy crisis spread, especially because of this FUD that Bitcoin mining costs a lot of energy. Here's a new research report on the Lightning Network. Research mass exit attacks on the Lightning Network. We show via a simulation that a coalition of just 30 nodes could lock funds at 31% of the channels for about 2 months via a zombie attack and could steal more than 750 Bitcoin via a mass double spend attack. Now, that's all beyond me. I just want to give this for you guys as some homework to do. Go check it out. Comment, let me know what you guys think. I know Lightning Network has other issues, as other people have noted. I'm not an expert on the Lightning Network, but Seth for Privacy is, and he liked this tweet. So maybe he sees an issue. Ultimately, it's just very complicated. The Lightning Network is very complicated. I'd rather just use Monero. Who knows the issues? It's still, as far as I'm concerned, a laboratory project. This is a cool initiative that I saw in the Monero Reddit. Pay for shipping in Monero. So this is what I'm talking about, man. Just brilliant ideas cropping up everywhere. So he says, hey, beautiful people, this is from Damocles Rising. I'm about to launch a service that will allow you to buy print-at-home shipping labels from well-known carriers and way more with Monero. The best part, you'll be entitled to deep discounts that are usually only available to the biggest warehouse shippers. We're launching the website in the next 2 weeks, so join our Telegram. So check it out. I mean, that's super cool. So instead of having to go to UPS or go to USPS in person or maybe online to use your credit card and then get the shipping label, which sort of gives up your privacy a little bit, these people will apparently do it for you. And you'll be able to get shipping labels anonymously so that you can send stuff relatively anonymously. So that's super cool. Yeah, Binance is limiting withdrawals again. What else is new? This is a news show. We're not talking about things that happen every day, do we? Stuff on the P2P pool. So I think that's all I want to say. A Monero bro tweeted about this article today. This goes back to 2018. This is a good article to wrap up the night because it's funny. This is from 2018, March 23rd. And this person says the following. They were discussing which cryptocurrency that the participants in this discussion could trust the most to remain secure, fully anonymous, and definitely decentralized. And the answer was Monero. So that's interesting that even back in 2018, that was the consensus among Financial Times bros. So I think that's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed our first video back. There was a lot to discuss here. And yeah, it's good back being in the frontline trenches with you guys, just talking about this stuff, getting the word out, getting the truth out. And who knows, maybe I'll have more to say, but this isn't going to be, a common thing again, I don't think. I think maybe I'll do a video one every couple weeks, if that. I know that some people have reached out to want to do interviews already and do talks, which is cool. Money Today Show, I'd love to talk with him. Go follow him if you don't follow him. If you're not following him, you're just kind of like out of the loop. You're not as ahead of the curve as you should be, so go check him out. He's awesome. Hopefully I can talk with you, bro. You're awesome. Love you. And there are other people I want to talk to too, but I'm a working man. I only have so much time, but yep, I want to thank you all for tuning in and checking us out. Subscribe, like, all that stuff. The huge. And God bless you guys. Glory to God. Stay strong out there. Keep the love flowing. And it's Monero Matteo. See you guys next time. See you.